Hello, Blake Grutis here. We are back 30 for 30 critique sessions in 30 days, and we are on day 11. And this is crazy from Damien Nugget. I'm not going to try, but wow, what a series. These videos have more value than anything else on the web. I can't believe we're going to get 30 of them. That's the kind of stuff that's coming out of this. I didn't think it was going to be this good, to be honest with you. I honestly had no idea that it was going to turn out this way, but I'm right there with you, Damien. We are steamrolling here. This is awesome. We have 20 more days, 20 more incredible things to share with each other. But before we get in and talk about the anonymous F64 Elite members image here, because I do give that option if people don't want their name to be said, we need to look at the twist. This comes from @BradPhoto. Brad, he likes to challenge my thinking all the time, and I love him for it. Twist: use a textured overlay, metal, wood, to sculpt the light. Masking and transforming and warping the overlay are allowed. Sweet. So that actually makes it a lot easier. So some Heike says, I would also love to see this twist tomorrow, blending in an overlay, textured, blurred, colorful. However, whatever irregularity it could add to the image, always kind of hard to tame. It is kind of hard to tame. Cool. And then also Maui Lover over here, again, great minds think alike. I was going to suggest a textured twist overlay. So we have 3 people who were really interested in how I could use a texture to edit this image, and we'll take a look at that after we do the critique. So for our critique, we have an anonymous F64 Elite member submission. Just so you know how this works, I have a spreadsheet to manage the 500 images that I have submitted. I press a random button, and whatever image it lands on, I look at that image, and if that image isn't something that I think would be suitable for us to learn from, I don't just press the button again. I honestly look at that individual and what they submitted, and I see if they have another image. So, and then once somebody's been critiqued once, they can't be critiqued again. Now, their images can be showcased, they just can't be critiqued again. That's just for fairness for all of the members of F64 Elite. So when I look at this, I really enjoy the space that I've been given here. This is a street photograph. I am not a street photographer. I'm a very timid photographer, to be honest with you. I'm the type of photographer who really doesn't like to do event photography. I don't really like to photograph people. I enjoy processing them and I enjoy the idea of it, but I'm so horrible about directing people. And then in the street sense, I'm just worried that when I pick my camera up, someone's gonna, think I'm photographing them or something. I don't know. I guess I'm such an empath that I'm worried about the people around me more than I am worried about getting the photo. And I'm even like that in landscape photography. If I see a spot that I want to photograph and there's people around, I won't go to that spot. I'll find a completely different spot that's way away from them so they can't even see what I'm doing. So I'm not equipped for street photography, but I can respect those that are. And I can analyze those images, and I can even help with those images, because the way I work on images, it's not about genre specificity. It's about navigating the viewer's eye. So in looking at this image, I really enjoy that yellow bike. I have so many questions. Like, I just keep looking at that bike. I'm like, is somebody riding that bike? Because there's something in the basket, right? There's a couple things in both baskets. But then I look at the wheel, I'm like, they can't be riding that bike. So this must be a piece of art. And it's against this white wall. And I start looking at the reds and the greens and then the beautiful window that's just this perfect rectangular shape. And then I look at other rectangular shapes that I see in here and the mimicry of rectangular shapes. And I really think that that is what is enjoyable about this image, is a lot of the mimicry in those rectangular shapes. So I appreciate this image. And, I think to myself, how many people walk past this bike every single day and ask themselves questions like, what's this bike doing here? Why is this bike here? Is someone riding this bike? Well, they can't be riding this bike because the wheel's flat. Have they even thought about that stuff? I don't know. But I'm on the other side of the street now and I'm looking at it and I just enjoy where it is. It gives me the sense of like, I kind of want to go in that shop. I want to walk around the corner. I want to see if there's more bikes. You see what I mean? Like, it just keeps me moving throughout the piece. And I think that that's what photography is supposed to do, is keep us questioning. The disconnect. I don't necessarily have any major disconnects with this. One of the things that I do see, though, is the potential for a crop. So I see that there's a lot of this white space up here. And if you crop this to get rid of that white space, you have to crop in all the rest of the image as well, because you can't just crop in. So it makes this a weird and awkward space. I feel like my eye just keeps going out of this space because there's no sky there. If there was a blue sky there, that would be really unique, because that would then have this juxtaposition between the yellow and the blue. But I think we can use some blue somewhere else in the image to draw that out. So I'm not too concerned with that right now. My main concern is the crop. And then the second concern is just navigating my eye. I know that you want me to look at the bike, but I feel like this is kind of flat. So I think that if we were to do some dodging and burning here, we might be able to push and pull the eye a little bit more. So let's jump in and get some work done. Okay, so let's get into the work. The first thing that I notice here is that I would like to do a crop. And the reason why is I'm going to use this brush here to kind of show you this. If I look down here, we have similar shapes. We have a shape down here like this, and then we also have that shape like this over here. But then it repeats right here. And I don't like this because my eye actually exits out of this spot when it's like that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop this in a way, probably right to here, where this shape mimics this shape, and this, they tie together throughout the whole composition, okay? So watch this. C for the crop tool, I'm gonna press the shift key and then pull this down, and then pull this just like this, kind of like that, okay? And that looks pretty good to me right there, okay? Now, a little bit more, because that edge is just right there. I just wanna get over that edge. There we go, right there, will work. And then I can nudge this with my left and right bracket keys, because now what I want to do is make sure I have a balance on the left and right hand side, or actually the top and the left hand side of that window. And that should be pretty good. So I'll press enter right there. Okay, so now I enjoy that. You see how that very small crop, right? It takes away this right here. So that tells me that the building continues to go on and on and on if we take that out, which is kind of cool. I don't need to see the top of it. And then it makes it a little bit more intimate of a space, which helps get the eye right in here to the bike, because it is a little bit more intimate. So instead of that looking like an afterthought, I feel like that is the major thought now. And this mimics this, so we have that mimicry happening there. Is this your typical composition rule? No. Do you see rule of thirds happening here? Barely. The thing is, you know, there's a course I have on F64 Elite called Level Up Your Composition, and we talk about this kind of stuff. And it explains how, you know, you can make common sense compositions rather than rule-based compositions. And I think that this works really well for this image. So then the other thing I talked about was using some type of dodge and burn to add a little bit more depth to the image. So I'm not really going to go into what dodging and burning is at this point, other than the fact that dodging makes things brighter, burning makes things darker, and when you do it, you can use almost like a painter of light to navigate the viewer's eye around the image. In my visionary panel, I have this thing called painted darkness and painted light, and I'm going to use my brushes over here and do this. So don't worry about the what or the how, just worry about the why for now, okay? I'm doing this because I want to navigate the viewer's eye. So in the painted light, I'm just going to brush this right here behind this bike. And this is not going to look like I'm doing anything right now, trust me. But again, trust, when I come back and show you this after I turn these on and off, you're going to be like, dang it, Blake, you got me again. And I'm going to say, I know, because that's how I roll. Okay, so now in the painted darkness, I'm going to paint this down here. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to shape and sculpt out the light a little bit and darken this area down at the bottom, because I don't want the attention necessarily going here. I want it to go to the bike first. So if I darken the area underneath the bike, whatever is brighter, the eye is going to go to first. I learned this when I was in college. I had this awesome art professor named Rosemary, and what she taught me, Rosemary Lane was amazing. What she taught me in drawing class was that if I ever wanted to bring the attention towards, let's say a corner or something like that, and make it feel like it had some depth to it, you would make the area lighter in one spot and darker underneath it, and it would automatically just push and pull the eye. I learned so much from her. It was amazing. Okay, so now I'll also paint some darkness up here in this corner to kind of pinch in this a little bit. So we've got the light is really just happening in this space, and the darkness is happening up here and down here. Now watch when I turn these off. You see that? It totally shifts the way you see this image. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, but I need to use a texture on this also. So I'm going to open up a texture that I have, and don't judge me, okay? But this is actually from my air fryer. If you ever are looking for interesting textures, this is what I suggest. In our air fryer, toaster oven, whatever that might be, we wrap the bottom tray in foil. Now what happens is, like, oils and stuff will drop and collect on there, and every once in a while we need to rip the foil off, and underneath that foil is some really cool patterns and textures. So this is actually, this is a texture from my air fryer, okay, just taken with my cell phone. And this is what happens. I see a texture, I'll just take the picture with my cell phone, and then I'll just email it to myself, or I'll put it into a Dropbox or something, and I put it in a folder of textures that I have. So I'm going to put this texture on this image. But the thing is here, there's a couple ways you can work with texture. If I move this texture over onto this image, it's going to be huge. Control T, Control 0 to resize it. I'm just going to make this the same size as this image here. Now, you can use textures as a way to add some type of feeling to the image. So if I were to change this to something like soft light, okay, this will kind of give it like a grunge look. And then I can drop the opacity on here a little bit. And, you know, when I do that, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it's a little too easy. And honestly, I think it goes against what I would normally tell this individual anyway. Like my initial thought when I see their image is not, hey, let me put a texture on this for you. Because then I'm trying to alter their artistic vision by putting something on there that they might not be comfortable doing. So I'm not going to do that. But this gives me an idea. So watch as I turn this on and off. Do you see how things are getting lighter and darker? Okay, so watch this. I'm going to bring this all the way up now. And I'm going to change this from soft light back to normal. Okay. So look here, I have an area of highlight right here, okay, brightness here. I have an area of darkness here. So what happens if I turn these off, I press Control T, and I rotate this, just like this, okay? And then I right click and say flip horizontal, okay? So now what's that gonna do? Well, look at where I dodged and burned, okay? I'm gonna use a texture for dodging and burning. I don't know if this has ever been done before. I've actually done 2 courses on textures, and I don't think I've ever used them in this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to the linear light blend mode. And this blend mode is a dodging and burning blend mode. What that means is that if something is lighter than 50% gray, it is going to make that area lighter. And if it's darker than 50% gray, it's going to make that area darker. Very similar to like soft light and overlay. But if you look at linear light, it is actually a combination of linear dodge add and linear burn. So it is a combination of using the lightest, a lightening blend mode and a darkening blend mode in the same blend mode, and it draws its power from fill. There's a course on F64 Elite called Blend Modes. I explain all this stuff there. So I'm going to pull this all the way down and then bring this up. You understand that F64 Elite members get a lot of stuff. I'm going to pull this up and pull this up. So now you're thinking, okay, I see the dodging and burning aspect, Blake, but how is this going to look like you actually dodged and burned this instead of putting a texture on here? Well, I need to first get rid of all of the saturation in this, so no colors in here. So on this layer, I'm going to press Control-Shift-U or Command-Shift-U on a Mac, and that'll make sure it's just a black and white image. So now what I'm going to do, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I'm going to blur the junk out of this all the way up. Just start taking it up. Just start taking it up, until we get no texture and just dodging and burning. Dang, son, look at that. Oh my gosh. And here's the cool part. If there's some parts of this where it's like putting a weird dodge or burn on there that you don't like, you can always put a mask on here and brush it away. Let's say I don't want that to be on the bike. So I'll just brush that away with black on the bike so that if any of that darkness is there, it's not going to be there now. Basically just using this texture as a dodge and burn. Man, that's cool. Okay, so now let's incorporate, I can get rid of those. Well, actually, let's see how does that compare to my dodging and burning. So here's the before. I kind of like that. Kind of like that, but we do need to do some color work. So I'll stick with this texture. Good job, Brad. That's awesome. We used a texture for something completely new that I don't think I've ever used a texture for, but you know all my education better than I do, so you can probably tell me if I've done that before. So what I'm going to do is go into the visionary panel and go into the color sliders here, and I want to make more blue. So we've got this beautiful yellow down here, okay? But I want to make some more blue in the image. So I'm just going to use my panel to do this. It's a selective color adjustment layer that's going to make the blues stronger and more intense as if we were painting. Okay, and then make the cyans more intense. And that's going to create a juxtaposition between these blues, the reflection in the window, and that yellow bike. And now what I'm going to do in the dark areas, just add a little bit of blue to the dark areas, and maybe a little bit of warmth to those neutral areas. Just a tad bit, though. And more darkness, blue to the darkness, and just a slight tad bit. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now here's your before. Here's your after. Look at the depth that's coming through there. And there's a lot of depth that's also coming through with color, too. So if I change this over to... actually, let's go into the self-critique guide. I'm going to get the tone navigation map here. Control-Shift-P. That's what I have as a hotkey for playing an action. And then before, after. You see, we're just blocking this out. So we have like a yin and yang concept with the composition that we created. Okay. And then we block this out so it's darker. Brighten this area up so it's brighter. And then we used blue, which you can't really see that in the viewer navigation map, to make those areas just a little bit more blue. I think this is a great street photography shot, so thank you very much for sharing this with us. Small little crop and a really cool texture blend. That's awesome, and one for the books. So our showcase image comes from Gary SINDELL. Now we've seen an image from him before, but it was a critique image and not a featured image. Now just because someone's been critiqued doesn't mean that they can't have a showcase either. So I really like the space that you've created here. When I look at this as if this cheetah has found this spot and it just saw me. And it's like, if I knew you were here, I probably wouldn't have come. But here's the deal. If you turn around and walk away slowly, when I'm done, I'll turn around and walk away slowly too. And I get that feeling because it's just peeking through that little piece of foliage there, almost as if it suspected there'd be more foliage there and it would be hidden, but it's not, and I see it. And I'm not afraid of this cheetah at this point. At this point, it's almost a matter of respect between the two of us. It's like, all right, buddy, I get it. You're going to take your drink and you're going to walk away, and I'm going to walk away too. I understand the assignment. So I'm not afraid in this instance. I'm more having a conversation with this cheetah without even having a conversation. And it's wild how photography can do that. I genuinely have that feeling in this conversation with this image. And this just goes to show you that sometimes you don't have to have these amazingly epic images for an image to connect with the viewer. This isn't a cheetah running rapidly with, the background blurred. This is a freeze frame of a slow, steady conversation between the two of us. I have not actually, the whole time I've been doing this, I have not unlocked eyes with that cheetah. And that's what I think is so cool about this, is like, I even when I think to look somewhere else in the image, my eyes immediately go back to the eyes of that cheetah, almost as if I trust you, but I don't, buddy. So until you turn away, I'm not turning away. You see what's happening there? I love it when a vision comes to fruition like this, where it tells that story. I'm not sure if that's the story Gary wanted to tell, but that's the story that I'm feeling. And that's what we don't know is going to happen when the viewer sees our work. But I love this. Thank you for sharing this with us, Gary. So, do you want to see where the donation amount is? Did we get over the $5,000 mark that we were at yesterday? We were just barely kissing it. We only needed to cut like $100 more. And we certainly did. We are at $5,031.75, which equates to 335 art kits, or 335 kids that are going to have art that didn't have before because of this series. And that is awesome, guys. I really enjoy what's happening here. And I did not suspect the education to be as good as it is. Going back to what Damien said here, they can't believe that we're getting 30 of these. The cool thing about this, though, like on F64, I'm not joking, guys. On F64 Elite, I do 24 of these per month. And here's the cool part. It's September. So that means I did the ones for August already. I'm actually doing critiques on F64 Elite in September also. So not only are you getting 30 here, they're also getting 24 there. That's 54 total critiques for F64 Elite members. And then when this is over in October, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can watch these critique sessions. They'll just be over on F64 Elite. We still do them. We're going to keep going. And I want to keep going with you. So if that's something that you're interested in, just go ahead and click one of the links below to learn more about F64 Elite. You can always email me too, blake@f64academy.com. I can answer any one of your questions about F64 Elite and whether it's a good fit for you. Okay, with that being said, tomorrow's day 12. I can't wait. That was an awesome twist. If you've got an idea for a twist, put it down in the comment section below. Whichever one gets the most likes is going to be the one that's selected. Thank you all so much for playing along with this, because we're learning so much through these twists and challenges that I did not expect to. I thought these were going to be silly, and you guys are challenging me, and it's working because we're learning stuff about Photoshop that we wouldn't have learned before. So let's keep it rolling. Let's see what happens in day 12.